Yo guys, today I'm going to teach you how to master COTA Texas on F1 2025, going through my usual video format of a low speed lap, how to adjust the time trial setup, and then a full speed lap at the end of the video. So with that being said, before the lap even begins, open up the final corner as much as possible and then getting a straight line exit, opening up DLS as you run down the pit straight. The black box on the right hand side is going to be your reference point for turn 1, and about a car length before that black box you want to be hitting the brakes to 100% braking pressure and then going down into turn 1. Third gear will be your gear of choice, and then turning in at this blind apex as you rise up over the crest of the hill, and that'll be your turn-in reference for a really difficult first corner. Ideally, you get two wheels on the sort of faded yellow part of the curb on the inside, and that can allow you a good racing line. Avoid the exit curbing as that will reduce traction, but use as much track width as you can. Two wheels on the painted surface on the inside here. To explain why it's critical to be on the painted surface, as the painted surface is completely flat. If you go over the inside curbing here, you can see it's not flat, and it's going to cause a little bit of friction with the floor of the car hitting the curbing, reducing your top speed potential of the car. Running through the first sector, flat out through here, and all you're trying to do is minimize your distance, getting as close to the white lines as possible as you're going flat out through all of these sections, including this right-hander, well, double right-hander is flat out with a good setup in qualifying as well. So you'll be in 6th gear at this point, again over the inside curbing, and then that black box is a good reference to sort of be turning in with on the right-hand side of the circuit. Get your car as close to the sort of white line curbing before you do turn in for this left-hander, and attack the curbing on the inside of the track as much as you can. Keep the car to the middle of the road, and you sort of want your car and your left-hand side tires to be over this sort of black tar line to a point that your radio antenna on the front of the car is completely in line with it, and that is your ideal racing line as you go into the right-hander. Dropping it down into 4th gear, again over the inside painted surface for the same reason as we talked about previously, and then short shift to 5th. This is really important. Short shift to 5th, and in a qualifying lap be in medium ERS mode, as that will allow you to take this corner flat out with a good setup in qualifying. On the exit here, as you rise up and over the crest of the hill, use as much road on the exit as you can, then flat out for the left-hander. This corner doesn't really have a distinct braking reference, so about 75 meters before the corner, you want to be going 100% on the braking pressure down into 3rd gear, and you want to sort of be grazing the inside, faded yellow part of the curbing on the inside, pretty much identical to turn 1. On the exit, you want to be using as much track as possible, even to the extent of having two wheels on the green part of the AstroTurf, but as soon as you're to 100% power and confident the car is stable, then pull yourself off the exit curbing, as if you stay too long there, then you'll be bottoming out. Opening up DLS down the back straight as early as possible, obvious statement, I know. Keeping the car to the right hand side of the circuit, as the following corner is a left hand corner, and then 100 meters before the turn you want to be going over this sort of green part of the circuit, again for the reasons that the track is smoother than driving on the normal part of the curbing here. So 100 meter board will be your braking reference. The track is going downhill here, so it's quite easy to lock up your tires and then lose grip because of that, so just keep that in mind. Be careful with your braking pressure. Get as far over this inside curbing as possible. The regulation in Formula 1 is quite simple. You always have to have one tyre in contact with the racing surface at all time, so that's where you can exploit this corner as much as possible. You can have one tyre always in contact with the white line and it will be a-okay. So that's where you can cut over this corner as much as possible. Again, you'll see a live example of this in the full speed lap after this segment of the video is done. Using as much road on the exit as possible. Once you're to 100% power, pull the car to the left hand side. I like to keep the car in 4th gear here. The reason I like to keep it in 4th, even if it is quite aggressive on the RPM, is as I go down to 3rd gear, it's only 1 gear shift. If I approach this corner in 5th gear, it means I have to go down 2 gears that can unsettle the balance of the car going into this right-hander. Try to connect 2 wheels on the inside red and white part of the curbing and stay to the middle of the road on the exit. Again, sort of where the antenna is with the black tar line in the middle of the road is your ideal racing line. The reason you want to do that is to not run too wide. If you run too wide, then you'll end up sacrificing this next right-hander, which should be easily flat out. Normally, I would do the whole lap in 54% braking bias, but for this one corner alone, I drop it down to 53%, so then it's optimal for the rotation, using as much road on the entry as possible, and again, using this sort of black tar line as a decent reference for where your car should be. Roughly following that through the left-hander and then looking for a really strong exit. Try to be compromising with the inside curb here, as the track does sort of fall away from you at the apex, so the rear of the car can become quite slidey and unsettled because of this. On the exit here, use as much road as you possibly can over the green part of the track. The extra track usage is worth less grip than the green part of the circuit can provide, so it's more worth it to go over that than compromise your track usage and stay on a normal part of the track. So we're approaching in fully to the final sector here. Flat out through the right hander, just graze the inside curbing, and you approach one of the most difficult corners on the whole F1 calendar, and it's definitely up there with the most difficult on this track. You see the black box on the right hand side again is a decent turn in reference, but this corner is completely blind as you're coming into the apex, as you can see right now, and it has some undulation on it as you go up and over a crest of a hill before you reach the clipping point. Go down into 5th gear. You can take this corner in 6th gear, but I advise it in 5th to help extra rotation at the corner and be making it easier to manage the understeer that you may face. 2 wheels all the way on the inside curbing here, quite simply as you can get away with it, and it'll be meaning that you're using more of the track, and of course that's an advantage that you want to have. On the exit, use up all the curbing as it's not that aggressive, and approaching the final corner of the lap here, black box on your right hand side of the circuit and or where the white line is, braking half a car length before this sort of white line will be your optimal braking reference. 2 wheels on the outside of the circuit where the smooth green surface is for as long as possible, then dropping it down into 3rd gear, using as much road on the inside as possible, as quite simply the curb is very smooth here, so you can get away with it. As you rise up and over the crest though, the rear of the car can become a bit unsettled as you're going over a hill here, so just bear that in mind with your throttle application. Opening DRS for the run to the line and using as much road as possible on the right hand side of the circuit, and that is how to master your lap here in COTA Texas. Let's take a look at the time trial lap here and how we'd be adjusting it for a racing situation. So this is the time trial setup that was done with the world record by Otis Lawrence, and as well instantly I'd be changing these tire pressures to maximum for a racing situation. Quite simply, in F1 2025, the higher tire pressure that you have will mean the better tire deck that you have, and over a racing stint that's absolutely critical. Going into the differential, I would probably say about 40, 45, just to help the rear stability as the rear tyres degrade over their stint. In the qualifying, you could probably get away with 30, 35, depending on how much stability you like from the car. Going over the front ride height, I would say 22 would be a good position, for the front ride height, quite simply as it gets you up and over the curbs a little bit easier, and that is the ideal way to be going about it. 21 is good, but you may risk bottoming out over the curvings and adding a bit of understeer in those situations, which is of course less than ideal. Let's go over to the full speed lap example and how I tackle qualifying. So here we go for the full speed lap. When beginning the lap, you want 70 degrees on the front tyres, 74 on the rear as well. Flying down to turn 1, use the overtake button until 80% on the battery available. Through turn 1 again, enabling the overtake button on the exit, draining it all the way down until 70%, and then you go into the first sector flat. flat. Flat round here again, and then through the right hander, lifting off the throttle down to 5th, commit to the curb on the inside, down to 4th, pull the short shift to 5th, and then you can just take this flat out over the top of the crest of the hill, down to 59% on the battery there. Over the curving on the right hand side, down to 3rd gear, look for rotation, but even more importantly, the traction onto the back straight, using that overtake button as we enable the DLS, and we're going to be draining all the way down until 17% on that overtake button and the battery available. 100 meter board down to 3rd gear, commit over the curb on the inside, a little tap of the overtake button in 4th, down to 3rd, through the right hander, drop the braking bias from 54 to 53 for this left hander, into 3rd gear, prioritize the exit speed and back on the power, draining the overtake button, but briefly turning it off as the tyres are fully loaded in the middle of the corner, and then back on it as you approach the final 2 corners of the lap here, down to 5th gear, draining all you have left in that overtake button as you go into the final apex of the lap, again draining everything you have for the run up to the line, and it's a 130.2. So as you can see, we did a 1 minute 30.272, 2.7 seconds faster than the 110% AI in F1 2025. Going into the sector times right now, you can see that it is a 27.5, a 36.0, and a 29.6 in the final sector of the lap. So hopefully this hot lap guide and track guide has been helpful for you improving on COTA Texas F1 2025. I've been Brendon Leigh, and I will catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao ciao, bye bye.